illustrious car show. We have Keith Vermonte, he's with Syracuse Nationals. We have Joe, he is from the Buffalo show. And Bob Larrabee, who has been doing shows since 60, I got it right. And this is Dave, forget the repo, but it's Dave, okay? And Dave is with Motor City Car Club, and he's going to talk about the AutoFest show in Oshawa, Ontario. So I'm going to kick it off with Bob, as the elder statesman of the panel. Bob, you've been in this since 60. Have you been doing just strictly inside shows, or did you do everything?
Pretty much inside shows. We tried to get into outside shows, and believe it or not, we couldn't envision that the only way you could really make a success out of outside shows was to rent a whole fairgrounds. So we sponsored and produced some outside events, but you know, they weren't that successful. And then along came NSRA and sort of showed us what to do. But I was never really interested in that, because by that time we were running so many indoor shows. Just to give you an idea, I actually started in 1959, and I got to mention that because my first show was in Hamilton, and I don't want to leave Hamilton out of it. But at any rate, by 1981-82 season, we were running almost 100 shows a year. So we didn't really care if we ran outdoor events. Yeah, eventually it would have been great. I admire what NSRA and the good guys have done, and would have been nice to be a part of it, but we've kept real busy doing what we do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Joe, with your inside, it's a single event similar to this, correct?
Single event, it's once a year in March, and what I did is I took on a show that was going on for 60 plus years in Buffalo. It stopped in 2009. In 2011, I revived it. My wife encouraged me, said, with 6 months to go beforehand, she said, if you could make the show happen again, do it. So it's our 7th year, and we keep making it bigger and better by going to other shows in different areas and different states, getting ideas of what they do, and bringing it back to home.
Oh, that's great. And Keith, with Syracuse, I've been to the show a number of times. Huge fairground, the kind of thing that Bob said you pretty much have to do is you rent the whole fairground, or how does that come about?
Oh, we definitely rent the entire fairgrounds. We have contracts with them for the next 10 years. We've been blessed with the state revamping that fairgrounds too, which has created a lot of interest from the local community to see what's being done all the time at the show. The car community itself too, there's a change every year. There will be a change for probably the next 3-4 years there as they continue to spend money improving the grounds. It makes it definitely positive for us, and you know, for Syracuse too, because a lot of people travel into Onondaga County, which contains Syracuse, and a lot of tourism dollars spent there. So
at your show, you've got people buying gas, people buying hotel rooms, people buying food. The impact on the community has got to be huge, and that state's got to recognize that and be part of that.
The Syracuse CBB estimates it at 13.1 million economic increase just the week of our show. So it's its own separate animal. We do get good support from the community for it. So
For sure.
We appreciate it.
And Dave, as far as AutoFest is concerned, same kind of thing, outdoor show. When you're putting that together, the team that you need, how does it come about? Is it a year-long gathering of folks to put this thing together, or how does it work?
Well, as you know, it's an outdoor show, and it's been going on in Oshawa for the last 23 years. This is our 24th year. We used to be down at the GM Center, where it was down by the lake, and now we're at Lakeview Park. We have been there for about 10 years. And the show's getting bigger all the time. Last year, 1,600 cars, hot rods, every description, rat rods. We're going to have tuner cars this year again. So we're a wide variety of anybody's interest in any kind of car there is running on the road. As far as people concerning, there are 27 members in Motor City Car Club. It takes us 1 year to put on the show. We actually do take a week off after we finish the AutoFest just to put things away and gather our brains of what we're going to do next year to make it bigger and better.
Okay, thank you. I would imagine all the rest of you, like a year to put a show together. Bob's a little different because you're doing so many shows. You have a really large team of people you were trusting to take care of that endeavor in each city, correct?
Yeah, at our peak we had about 35 employees, and we had 5 semis on the road hauling show cars. If you guys remember seeing cars like the Beatnik Bandit and a lot of the cars out of California, that was one of the things that we started real early. We were a strong believer in bringing in feature cars that you saw in the magazines. That's somewhat changed today. We don't do that anymore. I wish we did, but I don't control the company anymore.
Okay. The Buffalo show, you say that you've revived it. Has it got back to what it once was, or are you still working on that?
Like I said, the show's been going on for 60 plus years. Buffalo has had a huge resurgence in businesses and people coming downtown in the past 5 years. So I started the show back up before that happened, and now downtown Buffalo is a destination. We're getting seen in all types of media with people saying, you got to visit Buffalo, we're on top 10 lists. So I'm running the show downtown where everybody already is. It's just been helping with people coming in and putting Buffalo on the map. It's a smaller area, obviously, than Toronto, Detroit, or anything else. But I pull in a bunch of SEMA cars, Riddler contender cars, grade A cars. I try to bring in the cars that I see across the country back home, and including celebrities and everybody else, so people can meet the people that I see in my travels.
Okay, got it. Now, as far as the outdoor with Keith and your show, it's run what you brung. You're going to get every variety, just like the AutoFest show, you're going to get such a vast array of vehicles. Do you do specialty events at the site?
Well, we do have, like you mentioned, every car level out there, from the Gene Winfield Award, where you've got $1 million, $1.5 million, it wrapped up into a car where he does his pick for top prize, right down to the working man's car, and then that's where we started. Our roots are as a working man's show, and we intend to still keep it that way. We've opened up our show this year in 1985. We went up 5 years and below. Quite frankly, we got more room with the remodel, and the more people we can entertain, the better off we'll be.
For sure. When your show started, it was a small nucleus of people that drove that first, I'm not sure what it was, the first 1 or 2 years. It grew pretty quick after that, didn't it?
Well, the first year we expected maybe 1,000, 1,500 cars, like 2,500 showed up, and we were not prepared. The state fairgrounds wasn't prepared. There wasn't enough drinks for people, and it was, we managed over the 17 years iron that out, so now all the restaurants are open on there, and there's plenty of things. The camping's open.
First car show that I took my wife to was Syracuse in an unair conditioned Monte Carlo. It was probably 103 in Syracuse, and just for fun I took her to a restaurant outside of town that night where there was a bunch of cars congregating, and it's so hot and they're doing a flame show. She thought I was out of my cotton picking mind. It was a great weekend, and you do have the shuttle bus. So for all the women who don't want to sit around the grounds and sweat all day, they can go to the mall and spend the guy's money in an air-conditioned building, which is fantastic.
They just remodeled that mall and added on to it. It's now the second largest mall in the nation. So that's a positive for the ladies. And we have a Women's World building too, with 45 vendors or so. But to be able to bus people to the mall, and again, that's with support from the city of Syracuse. It's fantastic. And as far as rain or heat at Syracuse, we promise you a thunder shower. We promise oppressive humidity following that, but you'll get it in a good time.
I've seen pictures where the water at one point was up above the lips on some of the doors of the cars. But it only lasted for a few hours, and then it got hot again. So
with the remodel, they took out, the whole fairgrounds was plumbed on 4-inch PVC. Half of it was broken, so that's no longer an issue. they fixed all that up, so the water now flows like it should.
Dave, as far as AutoFest on the grounds, what sort of features are on the grounds for participants based on the fact that husbands, wives, families come? What do you have for them when they come to the show?
Well, at the show itself, this year, we will have a center just dedicated for kids. So there's going to be jump castles, face painting, there's going to be live animals there at that center. We're going to have Women's World there, the jewelry for ladies and any kind of description they want to pick up. I think they don't sell shoes though, but they do sell other things. There's going to be all kinds of vendors there. We are heavy on vendors. Sponsors will be there with their wares as well. There's going to be various awards for different participants in different classes of vehicles being showed. It's just one heck of a good weekend. It's right down the lakefront. There's lots of shade. There's a cool breeze blowing from the lakefront. And we've had very good success throughout the years, and we hope to make this show even bigger and better than what it was the last year and the years before. So we've got nothing coming on the second last weekend of August. Make a trip down to Oshawa and participate in the show.
And it's right on the water, correct?
Right down by the water.
Okay, very good. Bob, in all of the years, what's the biggest challenge to do?
And by Sunday we had a few people, and we actually didn't do too badly. I mean, we could sustain the loss. The interesting thing is the only people that gave us a break on that weekend were the Teamsters. They cut the bill back. Nobody else would. The building wouldn't. Nobody would. And of course the advertising had already gone out. So those are the kinds of things that are unexpected. And we used to be faced with those kinds of things in Toronto that you can all relate to. You know, I ran speed sports for 30 years down on the waterfront, and all I can remember about coming to Toronto in January was the weather. I mean, it was horrendous.
Beautiful.
The snow was usually, sometimes we'd come out of moving and we couldn't find our car. Everything was a mound of snow, and but you know, the Toronto people seemed to be used to that, and they would come out in droves. We did a unique thing down there at Speedsport one year when the van craze came in. I think it was in the 70s, and we rented the Queen E building for the van sport and the automotive building for Speedsport. And we were naive enough to think that we could move all these people between the two buildings with a couple of buses. So we rented, about 2 buses. Well, we had almost 80,000 people showed up. So these people just walked between the buildings, and it was just incredible. I mean, it was all snow-packed. It was a bitter cold weekend, and we had a record attendance. So those kinds of things you just can't anticipate, but with experience you can overcome a lot of the problems that you might be faced with.
For sure. About the awards that are offered at the shows, maybe each one of you could speak to whether these are professional awards, whether they're picked by, in some cases you'll have politicians or dignitaries that'll pick awards. Keith, for your show, how do you do the awards?
Well, our main award is the Gene Winfield pick. That's the Winfield Award. And he narrows it down to select 6, and then the panel, along with him, pick out the one winner, and they receive a $15,000 prize. We also have the Street Rodder top 100 there. We have a 16 of what we call the Designer's Dozen, but there's 16 of them. And those are picked by our reps. And like in Canada, we've got 15 reps headed up by Jim Pearsall and Russ Phelps. In the States, we've got another 75 reps. And a lot of them, they'll pick and hash out, which car it is. And that's the Working Man's Award. And that's really a pleasure because those people are happy.
When you get an award from your peers, it's probably a little more heartfelt. Not that any award at this show isn't heartfelt, but peer to peer, it means a lot.
Well, you're down there working with your hands on your car, and you're acknowledged for your accomplishments of what you're doing. So,
Of show, and then we have best of street driven, best of stock, modified, hot rod, and then we have a top 60, and then we have special awards. We try to cover the whole variety of vehicles that come out to the show and give out the awards that they're deserved. We try to have peers decide on some of them, as well as we have judges that are trained in ISCA or MCA in different styles of judging. So it's not just somebody that says, oh, that's pretty paint. You know, they know what they're looking for, they can do it on a 100-point basis. So we try to do it that way. I also run outdoor shows, so it's a lot different than what we do with the outside shows, because in an indoor show you have 3 days to look over an entire car, have a group collaborate over what they feel should get the awards on it, whereas an outdoor show, it's pretty much a quick run by and you pick your cars that you like and, you know, just put them into a group and give them an award. So there's a lot more involved in the process for picking for an indoor show.
And if you do have questions, we can take them right now.
The new track is ready.
Here, I'll get you a mic. It's coming up.
Say your name and where you
I live in Mississauga. Yeah, my name is Warren. There's a new track coming up in Port Erie. It should be finished in 2020 there. And whereas the Jamboree and NASCAR, like you did see at Daytona, is there going to be anybody going to that racing there, or doing events there when this happens, when it's finished?
I'm not sure. That's more of the racetrack, like the NASCAR series. I don't think that we can really speak to that here, because these guys are all looking at either indoor or outdoor shows. Now, if they finish the facility, it's quite possible they would hold an event, but it wouldn't be. It'd be a car show, not a NASCAR event. Okay. Bob, as far as going back to the judging, just for a quick minute with you, I know you wanted to chime in and I cut you off, so.
That's okay, you always do that.
Yeah, I know. Well, I keep telling you that we got to be out of here by 12 o'clock midnight, so.
I just wanted to mention that, I created the ISCA for this express purpose. I didn't want to deal with judging when I started running car shows, and that's why we created ISCA. But in Detroit, where we have the Riddler Award and classes, we have 2 separate judging staffs. And the Riddler judges meet with every car owner in the Big 8 and go over their car very specifically so that the car owner can tell them exactly what they did to it. And I'd just like to elaborate on that for a minute. The guy that won the Riddler Award this year, who was from Portland, Oregon, went on to Chicago last week, and lo and behold, at the end of move-in, along comes the car that won the Grand National Roadster Show, this 37 Packard. So it was the first time ever that those 2 cars had met, the winner of the Grand National and the winner of the Detroit Riddler Award, and I'll just tell you that the Packard won. Of all the guys I talked to, nobody agreed with that. And so that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing about judging. It's still a judgmental thing, and it's not always going to be perfect.
Yeah, you can't please everybody. It's not possible. But you say that's the first time that you know of in history that those 2 cars have ever competed? Or 2 cars from those 2 shows ever competed?
Probably the 2 biggest awards in America, the Riddler Award and the America's Most Beautiful Roadster. So, and the 37 Packard won, which I have trouble thinking of it as a hot rod. But at any rate, it's done and over with. But judging has always been a challenge, and over the years, ISCA in particular has trained a lot of guys that were real interested in judging, and I must add that a good number of them came from this very area and did a tremendous job at the shows over the years.
It's thankless. It really is a thankless job, and it's not the most popular guy in the show when you're walking around, that's for sure. But anyhow.